Hello and welcome to another 5-minute life hack. I apologize, it's been a couple of weeks. We've had a couple of things pop up and a couple of people have been sick who are going to join. But anyway, glad to be back. I thought I'd jump in and record this. I was thinking about something I used to deal with a lot called Monte Carlo simulations. I'm going to go there and I hope these slides scroll. So I'm going to double check real quick. Okay, it looks like it worked. Perfect. So this is something I used in back in my finance days. And what we would do is we would run a Monte Carlo analysis. So basically, it's a computerized simulation, and you can put in say a portfolio of stocks and see if you run it for 1,000 different scenarios or hundreds of different scenarios, what does that do over time? And of course, there are outcomes where, let's say you do a simple portfolio of 60% stocks, 40% bonds. There's scenarios where it does phenomenally well and maybe it returns, 12%. And there's other scenarios where it returns 1%, depending on economic factors and all sorts of different scenarios. Obviously, we don't know the future. And the whole purpose for doing the Monte Carlo is to say, okay, what's the average or the base case, and what's our probability of getting the returns we need for a retirement portfolio is how it's used. So it's ways to analyze risk. And it kind of helps you build a model with the highest probability for success for that individual or by that time frame. But most effective is because it forces you, based on the results of that estimate or simulation, it forces you to make changes now to your portfolio. And I was thinking about this in the context of life. Monte Carlo is to minimize risk. And I think in some ways we want to maximize our outcomes and minimize our risks in life as well. And so you'll recognize this chart. This is our life hack wheel of success. The 5 key components to be successful in life: physical and health, professional and job, relationships and family, financial, and then spiritual and contribution. These are the 5 things that there's lots of different lists out there. These things I think encompass most everything we need to do well in our lives to feel fulfilled and accomplished. And so the question in turning the Monte Carlo analysis on our own lives is, where are we allocating our time? The question I'd like to ask is your current routine or habits going to lead to success? Maybe 1 out of 100 times, 1 in 1,000 times, or is it going to lead to success 950 out of 1,000 times, right? Are we increasing the probability and decreasing that risk of success by our actions and by our habits? And if there's a change you could make to increase your probability of success in the future, what would that look like? And success, the great thing about this is success is self-defined, right? There's no such thing as somebody else is going to define this for you. It's going to look different for every person. Success for some people may be having great friends around you, watching football games and eating ice cream on Saturdays. If you're doing that, life's a success and you're good. For other people, it may include other things, and that's okay. It's self-defined, which is not my place. But here's some real examples that I thought I've come across in the last couple of weeks. My son, who's 14 now, my kids are really good at ribbing me and pushing some buttons, and they know they're pushing them. So he was talking to me last night actually about a professional gambler he saw on YouTube, and the guy's been banned from 95% of casinos in California because he's so good. And he's like, maybe I just need to become a professional gambler, and then I can have, a big house and I don't have to work with a real job. And so I introduced to him this thought process of, okay, there's a potential outcome that if you do become a professional gambler, and he's joking, but he's pushing my buttons, you may have an outcome where you're worth a couple $1 million and you can have amazing homes and stuff. But you also have to think about it in probabilistic terms. Here's my potential outcome, a couple $1 million. My probabilities of becoming a pro gambler and beating the casinos at their own game, are 0.00001%. And so you have to multiply your potential outcome by your probability to get your expected outcome. And in that case, it's extremely small. And your probabilities go massively higher if you go to school, become a doctor. Your probabilities might be 1 out of 5 or whatever the case is. So anyway, it was kind of a funny concept he and I talked about the other night, but here's some real world examples. So and these shall remain anonymous, but I've had people come in and say, hey, I need a raise. And that was the start of a conversation for an employee. I've also had other employees come in and say, what can I do to add more value to the team and to the company? Two very different concerns. One is very focused on me and pay. One is very focused on adding value to the team and the company. Run those forward 40 years of a career path. Who do you think is going to end up in a better spot? I can promise you it's one is going to end up in a much better spot because they're adding value. They're building the team. They're going to end up in a completely different place than the person who's only worried about themselves. And so that's a real life scenario. Happens all the time in the workplace. Luckily, we're building companies with people that are humble, hungry, and smart. And so usually we get the latter, not the first. Something to think about. Another one is, and I've said this, I'm guilty of this. So I don't have time to work out versus I do what it takes to invest in my health. We all have health until we don't, and it happens quickly. And so I think spending time and investing in our health matters a lot, whether that's nutrition, exercise, moments of silence and clarity, de-stressing, any of those types of things. So again, run those two scenarios out for 40 years. Who's going to have success? The person who's too busy to work out or the person who finds a way to make it a priority? They physically will have the abilities to do many of the things they want to in life versus the other one who probably will not. Last one, this is one, again, I've probably been guilty of more than I care to admit, and hopefully I've changed this, but the important people in my life will understand if I neglect them and don't invest time in them. Again, run that out for 40 years. It's probably not a pretty picture. So anyway, I thought this Monte Carlo analysis is an interesting way to consider our lives and what we're doing, and hopefully increase our probabilities of success, decrease our risk, and frankly, live a better, happier life. And so I hope that helps. I hope it's an interesting framework to think about. The potential gains times the probability can give you your expected outcome. And all we want to do in life is tweak those a little bit, constantly be tweaking 1% better each day in the right direction. And we're going to be very happy with the scenarios and with the outcomes. So anyway, appreciate it. Thanks for listening to this week's 5-Minute Life Hack, and go out and make an impact. Thanks. Bye.